Hello and welcome to the introduction for the Eternal Top 10 series. In this video I will try to answer two questions. What is the Eternal Top 10 and how does it work? First, what is the Eternal Top 10? It is heavily inspired by Nizarhund's Magic Top 10 video series for Magic the Gathering, in which he talks about the history of the 10 cards of a specific topic that had the most competitive success in Magic. And because I enjoy exploring the history of card games, and because we don't have a lot of content like that for Eternal yet, I decided to make a similar video series for this game. What are some possible top 10s we can look at? We can look at card types, for example relic weapons, at faction identity, for example the top 10 Feln cards, at power cost, at stat lines, at rarity, at the set a card is from, for example Arch and Devs, at unit types, or at battle skills or skills in general. Next, how does it work? How do I find out what the 10 cards with the most competitive success are? The short answer is stats. Over the last few months, I compiled a ton of deck lists that topped competitive events. That includes all decks that reached top 8 at an ETS Worlds, Invitational, World Wildcard, Weekly or Last Chance qualifier for the seasons 2017 and 18, and all decks that topped an event that directly qualified for one of the Direwolf Digital Worlds from 2019 to 2022. That includes ICQs, Seasonals, the TNE Invitationals from 2022, Last Chance qualifiers, and of course the World Championships themselves. I included the ETS, short for Eternal Tournament Series, to have some representation for the earlier years of Eternal, because official Direwolf Digital Worlds only started in 2019, about 2.5 years after the release of Eternal. The ETS was the community organized predecessor to the official Direwolf Digital World Championships. It was very well organized and had a decent prize pool, so the decks also were competitive for the most part. A big thanks to Anshi at this point, the main organizer of the ETS, for granting me access to all ETS deck lists, otherwise I couldn't have included them here. All those deck lists, 3,507 altogether, are saved in several documents, sorted by year, format and tier. And I looked through all of them for each card that could realistically make the list, but of course I can weave out some of the cards that are technically legal for a list, because those are only like draft comments that I already know never saw competitive play. Now to the point system. I think it's clear what sorted by year and format mean, but I want to explain the concept of tier 1 and tier 2. Basically, I divided all deck lists into tops of higher and lower order. For 2017 and 18, so the ETS years, I decided that all events that directly qualified for an ETS Worlds, so the Invitationals and World Wildcards, plus the Worlds itself, count as tier 1, while all events that indirectly qualified for Worlds, so Weeklies and LCQs, count as tier 2. And for 2019 to 2022, so the Direwolf Digital Worlds, it depends on how far a deck went. All top 8s are tier 1 and everything below that is tier 2. Each tier 1 deck gets a card 2 points, each appearance in a tier 2 deck gets a card 1 point, and at the end the 10 cards with the most points will be included in each video. This is of course not the best way to find the strongest cards because it has some biases. Firstly, older cards had more time, so they will have more points on average than newer cards. Then cards with fewer factions are also advantaged over multi-faction cards because they can appear in more decks, and cards that are cheaper and more flexible are better than expensive build-around cards because they are also played in more decks. There are also some cards that got nerfed so fast that they couldn't gain a lot of points, so they won't make the list despite being very strong before the nerf. And the best example for that are Entra, which was a 2-drop before she got nerfed, and Elding, which was a 5-mana 6/3 with the same ability, but you didn't have to pay 2 power, so you could just get a Pale Rider for free by sacrificing 1 unit. Both of those cards heavily dominated a format, but there weren't a lot of tournaments in that time frame, so they couldn't gain a lot of points. Despite those flaws, I still think that it's one of the best ways to talk about the competitive history of Eternal on a somewhat objective basis. Now that both of the two main questions of this video are answered, I want to quickly go over an example out of the simultaneously released top 10 for set 11 Revelations. In the top right, you will always find the name of the top 10, in this case top 10 Revelations, the rank of the card, in this case rank 10, and the card name, in this case Rune of Illusion. Under that you find a big table with the number of tops sorted by year, format and tier. A hyphen means that the card was not legal in the format or that the format didn't exist yet, which is the case for Expedition from 2017 to 19, because that format only got introduced in late 2019, early 2020. And in the top left of the table you will find the point table, in this case 66p, 66 points, and the number of tops, in this case 59 tops. Under that table you find a smaller table with all changes to the card. In this case the card never got nerfed or buffed, so you will only find the release date. And lastly, on the left you'll see the picture of a card. If a card creates or plays any other cards, you will always find the card created on the next page, in this case ghost form. So if you don't remember what a mentioned card does, don't worry, I will always include it in the video. Next, for some special rules. For cycles of power cards, like the runes, for cards similar to Seek Power, for example Chance or Blueprints, and for market access like Smugglers, I will only include the one with the highest point total out of a cycle in the list and talk about the rest when I talk about that one. In this case, only Shadow Rune really takes a spot on the list, but I will shortly talk about the other runes while I talk about Shadow Rune. Without that rule, some lists would get flooded with just 1 or 2 cycles. A good example for that is the list for set 4, which I already worked on. If I didn't have that rule, that list would almost only include quests and merchants and nothing else, and it would be kind of boring to talk about that. At the end I will also show 3 or 4 cards that barely missed out, or cards that most people might have expected in a given list as honorable mentions before I show the first place. And that will look exactly like the picture with the runes here. And lastly, if 2 or more cards have the same amount of points, the number of tops decides. The more tops a card has, the better its rank will get. And if 2 cards have the same number of points and same number of tops, then the results in 2020 decide. The better the card was in 2020, the better the rank will be. That was it from me for the introduction video. If there are any questions left, you can leave them in the comments. The first 2 videos will release today as well, in preparation for our last TNT Throwdown to Worlds, which will be held in set 6 and 11 format, which is why the first 2 lists are for set 6 and set 11. After that I'll aim for 1 video every 2 weeks, but I'll have to test out how that schedule works first. I'm always open for suggestions in the comments or on Discord, as long as they are doable. So if you are interested in a specific topic for a top 10 list, you can always leave a comment or send it to me on Discord. Lastly, some thanks to Booker213 for helping me curate some lists, then again to RNG for access to older ETS lists, and to my teammates at Team Notafrod and some friendly people over on the Direwolf Discord who gave me feedback, and a special thanks to Drossler for remastering and mixing the outro song that I wrote that you will hear now. Goodbye.